I created an account for this. I have browsed IMDb for over a decade. I've read countless reviews for movies I've liked and disliked and never felt compelled to say anything.
Oh, no.
But this is, without a doubt, the most shameful, poorly executed cash grab I have ever seen.
Is it a cash grab?
Are they making any
It's
money
on
off of this?
streaming.
Yeah.
The film was shallow, soulless, and poorly acted from the supporting characters. It felt like a bad episode of Goosebumps from the 90s. That was a 1-star review, courtesy of IMDb.
He made an account for this.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. This is Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Steven, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And over there is Ryan.
Hello.
Just got to give everybody some way to recognize that which direction or order we sit in.
It's a very visual medium, so...
Yeah, it's a thrilling visual.
We have to know exactly where each
And
of
directly
us are.
to my left is Andrew, and behind me somewhere is Ryan. Yeah.
He's in the other room. I don't know.
3.5 feet to my left. I'll draw you a diagram.
Let me get
what's
the
your
latitude and
orientation?
longitude out real quick.
Are you hanging from the ceiling?
No.
You're not a bat?
I am
Not yet.
not a bat.
Not yet.
Not yet. What?
I don't know.
I mean, it is. We're coming up on Halloween.
Yeah.
Slowly,
Yeah.
surely, and we are working our way through. We just had a fresh, hot new release, courtesy of Disney Plus, Hocus Pocus 2,
Hot off the streaming presses.
the 29 year in the making sequel that no one ever expected.
No one ever expected because the first Hocus Pocus was basically a complete closed story.
It felt like they did everything they wanted to do. You know,
Well, it wasn't really financially a huge success. It was a cult classic,
cult
for
cult
sure.
success.
And it's definitely
afterwards.
grown over the years.
Yeah.
So interesting fact, it technically lost money, right? So it grossed more than the budget was for Hocus Pocus 1.
Yeah.
But marketing, et cetera, means it did not make money.
Yeah.
However, somewhere beginning in the very late 90s, early 2000s, so roughly about the time where DVDs were a thing,
Yeah.
suddenly Hocus Pocus, because it was being played on Disney Channel and everything,
Mhm.
would make $1 million in sales every October, every year. Boom,
That's
boom,
crazy.
boom, boom. So suddenly, Disney's like, hey, look at this over here. Little moneymaker all grown up.
Well, I mean, it's a campy, fun film.
It is. It's kind of what you expect from a cult classic.
Yep. And if for whatever reason you haven't heard or listened to our episode of Hocus Pocus, our review, you can find that on our website.
SpoilersIntendedPodcast.com.
Yep.
.com.
Shameless shill achieved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark that off the big box of things we have to do every episode.
Yeah, if you want to hear our thoughts on the first one, go listen to that episode.
Yes.
It's a very good episode.
But we're not talking about the first one. We're talking about the sequel. And before we talk about the sequel, because this is absolutely a sequel that no one expected, and
Or probably asked for.
I'm not sure if it was warranted because, again, it felt like a complete story.
Yeah.
But for our intro topic, we're going to talk about other movies, I guess. Media. I don't know.
Media,
I don't know what you got up your sleeve, Andrew. You're not wearing any sleeves, but I don't know what's up there.
I'm always wearing a tank top.
Always wearing a tank top.
Yeah.
It's always an ace of spades.
But we are going to talk about media that maybe deserves sequels and hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Ryan?
Movies that we want to see sequels from.
We would mostly
It
enjoy.
could be series too, but
Yeah.
I think series are a little bit harder.
It's weird
It
to call
is.
it a sequel. It's just season 3 or
Yeah.
whatever.
right,
you know?
yeah. It's kind of tough to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan?
You may lead it off.
Yeah.
okay.
I want to hear.
I'm going to go with a very recent movie.
Okay.
And the reason is because I really liked this movie, obviously. And the sequel, the chances of it getting a sequel are...
Next to none.
No, it comes and goes, it ebbs and wanes, but it's not as guaranteed as I think the creators had hoped when they went into it, and it leaves a lot of things unresolved at the end. That is 2019's Alita Battle Angel.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I liked this movie a lot more than I thought I would, because anytime you see anime adaptation, you're like, okay, what are we doing here?
What are we going to do
here?
with the CGI
What are we
today?
doing here? You know, and it's like directed by Robert Rodriguez, who in my book is kind of hit and miss. I like a lot of his movies. I don't like some of his stuff. I didn't like his Book of Boba Fett episodes for sure.
And he did Spy Kids, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Spy
yes,
Kids. He did, Desperado.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Dusk Till Dawn. He did a lot of stuff in the early 90s and got, really
Big,
successful. And he has the capacity to be a good director. It's just sometimes I think he needs someone else there.
To tell him, like no.
Well, maybe it's that. I don't know. It's like it feels like when he collaborates with people, really good things come out of it. And so for this one, James Cameron was the big, producer for Alita Battle Angel, and it didn't do hot in the box office. It didn't do great, really, in any metric.
It's actually quite good.
It's very good, but not a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you haven't seen Alita Battle Angel, please watch it. And write your congressman. Tell him we need a sequel. Because right now, like, they haven't even written the script for the second one because it was already kind of like, we don't know if the studio's going to go for it.
There's a whole series of manga behind this, right? So
and there's a whole OVA or OVA.
Okay,
so the OVA,
there's
I think
definitely story to pull from that's back there.
Yeah, there's at least a second volume of the manga they could make.
I feel like there's more than that.
There's a lot more runway to go, and I thought Rosa Salazar did great in this movie. Christoph Waltz is in it.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie. I like everything they set up, and I haven't watched the OVA or read the
OVA is
manga,
quite good,
but I've heard
it's very
things.
violent.
Right. But I really want a sequel because I really liked that movie a lot. And when it ended, I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see the sequel. And then I started looking at how many people watched it that weekend. I was like, oh no.
This isn't what I wanted at all.
Yeah.
So does it end in a way that would like leave a sequel open?
1,000%.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so much.
They resolve some stuff in the movie. It's not like it's like an open-ended thing.
Right. Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of things that get set up throughout it that they have to have another movie to to unpack.
Yeah.
And it ends on not a cliffhanger, but definitely like, it is open for a lot of things that they could do. Yeah. So that's mine. I hope they make a second one. Yeah. It's not looking too hot right now, but we'll see.
All right. So
James Cameron can wait 10 years to make an Avatar sequel. He can do Alita Battle Angel, whatever.
Give it time. I'm sure the next substitute for Blu-rays that they can make money off, afterwards will somehow happen. I don't know.
Something will happen. Yeah.
So mine, unfortunately, is probably going to be lost on both of you guys because you haven't seen this film.
Incredible.
But I'm doing the 2008 Speed Racer. I would love the Wachowski.
This is his absolute hill to die on here.
The Wachowski siblings did such a fantastic job at making this film exactly what you would expect out of a Speed Racer film and a live action film. Like it's brimming with style, very campy style, but it is totally worth the watch. And I think just the world of Speed Racer is just a really fun one to be in, and I would love to just see more general antics with.
You just want more of it, right?
Yeah. It was just like more because the story that takes place in the film is pretty much tidied up by the end of it. There's no really like anything left hanging. Obviously Racer X is always Speed doesn't know that Racer X is his brother. That kind of thing.
There's no like cut to the side and there's some dude standing in a dark alleyway.
But at the end, like you still like it's just such a fun universe to be in. It would just be cool just to see another one that's just another standalone style.
Give me more
story.
races.
Yeah. Give me more wacky races.
I would imagine that audiences nowadays are way more like on board to like appreciate a Speed Racer now than when it came out. 08?
And this was definitely a box office failure. For sure. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's definitely one of those to where over the years that it has, kind of turned into more of a cult classic, and a lot of people look on it a lot better than what it did when it first came out. So, it would be nice if there would be one. I know there won't be, but
Yeah.
Steven?
Well, y'all pulled from like 2018 and 2008, and when I sat down to consider this topic, as we are looking at a film from 1993 that has had a sequel made for it, I figured, they're already mining my childhood. Just get on in there, dig a little deeper. Let's unleash the Balrog. So I went with 1985's The Goonies.
Okay.
The Goonies.
And this is absolutely a complete story. I could not begin to tell you how you could introduce a sequel to this or why or anything. But, again, Hocus Pocus, we're playing off this. We recently saw...
You give me an old man Josh Brolin in like a modern Goonies with like...
but when you think about it,
Sean Astin, everybody. The dude that played Data, he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's back in the game.
He's back in the game.
That's actually why this was on my mind, was because we saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. Shameless shill. You should check out our review of that. If you haven't seen that film, you should see it.
Check it out.
It's great.
listen to the episode, watch the film. You will not be disappointed.
It absolutely earned its R rating, so viewer be aware. But having said that, it's a phenomenal film. It's a great episode that you should listen to. And yeah, I'm going to butcher his name.
Yeah.
Ke Huy Quan.
Yeah, no, that's right.
That's about as good as I'm going to get.
Yeah.
You played Data in The Goonies, and then
he was short round.
Short round for Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
And basically didn't do anything else until last year.
Yeah, so it actually, him not acting in that time span, it was by choice later on, but initially it wasn't by choice.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that.
Basically, he just the films that he was auditioning for, they just didn't want him.
He was just a very heavily typecast person.
Yeah, they just they basically were just like, no, we're good.
But I mean,
they just couldn't see him as anything other than short round, I guess.
Or Data.
Yeah.
But seeing him on screen now, like, he's a phenomenal actor.
Oh, he's great.
Really
in that movie.
good. Yeah. And I mean, could we get him, Josh Brolin, Sean Astin on screen now? Like, let's go. I don't know what it's going to be about, but like, let's go. Sign me up.
Just another adventure.
Strip
Maybe it's their
childhood.
kids are in trouble and they have to like.
And they're the grouchy
Goonies
adults.
never say die. Go rescue their kids.
That would be awesome.
So I'm the blasphemous one, and I'm actually not the biggest fan of Goonies. There's too much kid screaming on the screen for me at any given moment.
Yeah.
And Andrew has particular tastes.
I don't know. I just didn't really enjoy the story that much.
So when did you see the Goonies for the first time?
Yeah, this is important.
I mean, I saw it when I was probably 12 to 13.
Okay. See, I saw it when I was like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same.
It was like ingrained in me as like a movie.
I think maybe my parents felt it was slightly too adult for me to watch earlier than that.
I mean, it's too adult for you to be 5 watching it.
Yeah,
but,
I loved it.
YOLO.
It was like the tamest thing I watched that year.
This is the guy that watched Ninja Scroll.
I was gonna say,
first anime.
I used to love Predator and Die Hard were my favorite movies when I was like 5 and 6. I was like, these movies rock, and they still do, by the way.
But yeah,
I still remember seeing Last of the Mohicans in theaters when I was 9.
Yeah.
My mom or my dad was like, but it's rated R. My mom was like, he watches the news. He'll be fine.
He watches the news.
He watches the news. Yeah, I mean, Last Mohicans has some objectionable content in there.
A little bit, yeah.
So with Goonies, it's just like you don't like the story?
I just don't really like just the whole kit. Like, I like the actors themselves. They are good actors.
I mean,
but
honestly,
I just don't like them all together.
When you look
it's just a lot of screaming.
You look at that group. I mean, you end up with a lot of good actors out of that.
Oh yeah, fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. It's just all the screaming.
Too much screaming.
Too much screaming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just really loud.
That's probably a 1-star review for Goonies.
Too much screaming.
Username Andrew Knuckles. Wait a minute.
I'm gonna go make an account for that.
Do it now. Yeah.
Andrew's not participating in this episode. He's too busy writing his review.
Don't like the Goonies. It has too much screaming.
17% too much screaming.
Setting up his account on IMDb. Forgot my password. I just made this. Alrighty, on that, it's time to move on to the actual meat of this show.
Hocus Pocus 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Hocus
Yeah.
Pocus. Gonna trigger Ryan over here.
From what?
Hocus Pocus 2. So this obviously just came out, 2022.
Yep.
Straight to Disney Plus release.
Yep.
Directed by Anne Fletcher, who I have to say I'm not familiar with.
I am not familiar with her work
Was
at
she
all.
connected to the first one in any capacity?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Her known for in IMDb that I see is The Proposal.
So the original creative team of director Kenny Ortega and screenwriters David Kushner and Mick Garris. Wow, that was a weird.
Wow.
You'll get
that's
there.
a really
Got
weird
it in
name.
3.
Yeah, are replaced by Ann Fletcher and Jen D'Angelo. Though Kushner does remain as a producer and receives a story credit as well. So basically, like they initially had the original creative team, and then they chose to go a different direction.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
And then he's still attached just because it's like characters based by or whatever,
yeah,
created by.
probably.
Yeah, he's probably
Okay.
like a EP or something like that. I
Yeah.
didn't go and look, but it's interesting. She has a lot of credits for being like a choreographer and also doing like bit parts.
Uh-huh.
So I'm interested to see like the kind of. I'm curious what the leap was there from that to directing.
To directing. I don't
Because
know.
I mean, The Proposal is her only thing that's really on here, and that's from 2009. That's not a recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. But anyways, she directed it, and our music is by a familiar name, John Debney.
Yep.
who, again, these are about the only ways I've ever heard him connected to anything. I feel like I should do
just Hocus Pocus and Hocus Pocus 2.
more.
He just went home and went into his crypt for like 29 years, and they said, "It's time,
like Billy."
Yeah, they dug him up. We need more Hocus Pocus music.
Yeah.
Only I could do it.
But yeah, so, this was direct to Disney Plus, no theatrical release.
Yeah.
We don't really have any idea of how it did on its opening weekend.
Probably pretty good if I had to
I would
guess.
assume so. I mean,
I would be very intrigued to see, because there's just no true metric
yeah.
for these kinds of things.
Well, it's up to each service if they want to report the numbers or not. you know?
Right.
Like,
So normally my metric
mhm.
is if I see a lot of articles about it, that means people are watching it and consuming it in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
And maybe I just wasn't in the algorithm loop or whatever.
The Pocus sphere, as we call it.
I did not see basically anyone talking about this at all this entire weekend.
Really?
Which
Okay.
is interesting, because if you were to poll my wife, that's all she gets on the Instagrams.
That's
and
the thing, is like
TikToks.
I just may not be in the loop.
Yeah.
And I will say, just looking at it, John Debney this man works for a living. He puts out, like the list of stuff that he has done or been involved in, it just keeps going.
Just
From his
staggering.
crypt, he does all this. That's incredible.
like they broke it down by, the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, just to like separate it out.
Because he's just got so much.
But I mean, there's stuff, and
Debney Tracks, Chapter 1.
like
the 70s.
did something. He had some part in Iron Man 2.
He's like
Spider-Man 3.
He's like the stock audio guy that does work for Digital Juice.
I mean,
You
like,
remember those?
Yeah.
Like the VHS.
Digital Juice. He's the guy that just says that.
like Sin
When
City.
you're trying to save that MP3.
I'm just gonna keep
Digital
throwing out
Juice.
names here. Malibu's Most Wanted. Nobody knows what that is.
Oh, I do.
I love that. I
saw
love that movie. It's so bad.
one is
but I
that?
love-
Malibu's Most Wanted. White kid from
Malibu.
L.A. No, he comes from Malibu.
What
It's been
year?
a long
Is that
time.
like
2003? 2?
Yes, you nailed it. 03. You
Oh
nailed it.
yeah, I got it right.
Yeah, I
For
don't know
what?
this one.
But yeah, it's definitely an early aughts film.
That sounds familiar.
Incredible. Yeah. So basically, his dad is.
Who's the kid?
I couldn't tell you. His dad is running to be like governor of California,
Yeah.
but his kid is an embarrassment because he's just always he's interested in like rap and all this other
Gangster.
stuff. Yeah. So he
Oh,
pays,
I do remember
He
this.
pays 2 actors to pretend to be gangsters and
Yep.
kidnap his kid,
Yep.
and then hijinks ensue.
I remember this
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this once on like TV.
I watched it in theaters actually.
Wow.
So-
Opening night, midnight showing. Andrew's there.
So legit in college, there was like a week or 2 weeks straight for some reason where my roommate and I got hooked on this, and 2 p.m. was just boo time. Every day at 2 p.m. we put it in and watched it. I'm not kidding.
Was it Jamie Kennedy?
Maybe?
Was he in that?
Man, you're gonna make me like click on things. This
No,
episode is
No,
not.
okay, you guys talk about Hocus Pocus 2. I will look
This
it
is
up.
this is not a Malibu's Most Wanted episode.
It is now.
It could be, but of course, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So there's not really a budget to discuss there because we don't know. I tried looking it
Sure.
up. No one really made any
I'm
stabs
sorry,
at it.
what was the name of the movie again?
Malibu's Most Wanted.
There we go.
Why are you doing this to me?
So yeah, because it's straight to streaming, there's no real numbers on like box office
no box
or like budget
office.
necessarily.
It was Jamie Kennedy.
I thought
Nailed
so.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, because I know when we actually kind of start talking about the review, we discussed this pre-show, not pre-show, but actually like yesterday or something.
Yeah.
About how it kind of almost felt like there were 2 directors at times.
It definitely felt like it.
Well, until April 2021, Adam Shankman was the person who is
Shankman?
Shankman.
Shankman.
I like Shankman better.
Shankman.
I'm Adam Shankman. And then you look down and he's shanking you instead of shaking your hand. Come on, Adam.
Shankman.
Shankman.
But he was attached to the project prior to April of 2021.
Oh.
After that.
So I don't know how much was actually done with him. Like, I mean, that's plenty of time to have made this movie, if I'm being honest, in between then and now.
So, like, do we know what part of the film was reshot?
The only thing I was able to find about reshoots was the ending
Okay.
underwent reshoots. So I don't know.
But in so we gave it a score.
We did. We gave it a score. We gave it a 6.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And for reference, Hocus Pocus 1 got a 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there is a difference in
General
Specifically
quality.
one. It's
Quality.
one difference.
It's a difference of one, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
But that's still not. We're not in the basement. This is not terrible.
I was probably the one out of all three of us that had the most fun with it, just based on general polling of not asking any specifics at all.
I was amused for a large portion of it, but I'm not here to tell you that my amusement was because the movie wanted me to be amused.
I had fun here and there. There were moments that are fun, but my problem overall with the movie is just that like on every level, it's not as good as the first Hocus Pocus. So like by default, right there.
Yeah.
Right? And the other part is that the plot felt like it was three people's fan fiction that got stitched together instead of like an actual movie.
So the final quarter of the film, like it's very weird. Like so I genuinely enjoyed the first 3/4 of the film. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good jokes in there, and it was just a good time. I mean, it wasn't a fantastically written story, but there were still some really fun moments in there, and Bette Midler and the supporting cast, for the Sanderson sisters did a fantastic job. She is clearly the tour de force for this film. And then you get to the final quarter of the film and it just drops off.
So something that's really interesting to me is Disney has released a novelization of Hocus Pocus, and it includes a sequel. So this was released in 2018 as part of the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
That sequel is not what was the film.
Oh, wow.
That sequel follows Poppy Dennison, who is the daughter of Max and Allison.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a direct, like these characters. They tried to
Which is what I would have assumed would have been like where this movie picks up.
Yeah.
They tried to get, I have absolutely just momentarily blanked on her name.
Thora Birch.
Thora Birch, thank you. I was trying to call her Tanya Birch for some reason. Thora Birch, who played Danny, and they tried to get her for this, and the scheduling didn't work out. So,
but you would think, like, I mean, I guess just in my mind, like, and I don't make movies, so I just don't have, I don't understand how the process works.
You're not a movie doctor.
Yeah. But like whenever
I'm my doctorate in movies.
Like, if you have a film and like this was one of the main characters in the original film, we want her for the sequel, and then she's like, I can't do it now, but I can do it later.
Well,
and then you're like, actually, we're just not going to do that, and then just go completely different.
Yeah, that's unless we have to hit the Halloween deadline.
But you just wait for the next year.
Next year. So I think there are two issues there.
I agree, but I don't know enough. Yeah.
So the first part of this is the creation of the sequel is really driven by Bette Midler. So this is her favorite role of all time. Like she's gone on record. This is her favorite role she's ever done.
Yep.
And so sometime in the mid to late 2000s, when Hocus Pocus kind of went from being a commercial failure to a cult classic to Disney's like, well, we're making money on this.
Yeah.
And she started realizing, wow, like I'm on TV again. Like this just shows up here, and I love this. She really started hammering her agent and producers and stuff about when are we going to make a sequel? When are we going to make a sequel? When are we going to make a sequel? So she's 76, right? So there's a time limit here to where she can actually do these
stuff like the singing and the dancing,
which is also a weird thing to say about Disney, because Disney's just like, been dead 30 years, resurrect her, break out the CGI.
Right.
But maybe they just, they didn't want to spend the budget or whatnot. But
well, and we don't know like how excited Thora Birch was to come back. She may have been like, I can't now, and I maybe could in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I saw some bit of an interview where she was like, I would love to, but you never know. That could just be Hollywood speak, right?
Sure,
just got to protect your jobs. And
the other thing is too, I do know that in the early production of the sequel, Disney was planning on just recasting the Sanderson sisters, and not having Sarah Jessica Parker or Nagini or Bette Midler come back,
which would have been a horrible mistake.
Well, and Bette Midler like just lambasted him for it.
Oh, I remember that they were doing a TV show, and she like went on like an interview, and she was like, "It's going to be horrible. It's going to be terrible. Why would you do this?"
Yeah. Like, and because clearly, like it's her favorite role. Like, why? Like if you have someone passionate about it, like
she still wants to do it.
Yeah, bring her in.
Yeah, and I do think that shows. Right?
It does, absolutely.
And I do think maybe the writing direction went more towards, well, we're going to focus on, we have these three back. We're going to focus on the Sanderson sisters
and less of the character,
natural protagonist.
The quotation marks main character.
I wish they would have focused less on those kids, because that was one thing for me that like really was grating, was the acting. Basically for me, every child actor in this movie was Max from the first one.
Interesting. So
whereas in the first one you had Thor Birch, you had Thackeray.
I wouldn't go that far.
So
I would absolutely, and will continue throughout this episode to go that far.
So I was not wild about our main characters.
I had to pause it a few times and like take a breath.
I will say though, I'm not going to let you besmirch the good name of all the child actors in this, because the kids that they got to play,
the
young
versions
Sanderson
of them
sisters
were really good.
They were amazing.
I would have loved more of that.
Yeah, because the Hocus Pocus 1 episode came out, right? I listened to it just to listen to our expectations after having seen it.
Yeah.
To see what all we got wrong, which, footnote, we all watched the trailer and we're all like, why would they put Najimi on?
Oh, yeah. Why wasn't it a Roomba?
And it was hoverboard,
Roombas.
and then it was Roombas. They just had lights for some reason.
It was just a weird angle in the trailer. I think it made it look like a hoverboard.
Yeah.
But
we all were convinced it was hoverboard. Nope.
Yeah.
They did the intelligent thing.
And I
there.
liked the well, we'll get to that
We'll
later.
get there. We'll get there. Yeah. But in those expectations, right, was kind of hard on the concept of, I don't know if I really want to see, the young Sanderson. Like how, and then they did it, and I was like, dang, I kind of, like, we got like midway through the movie, I was like, I kind of wish we were still back in, 1653 or whatever right now.
I think it was 1693.
Well, no, 1653 was your initial, like, when they were kids.
Oh, okay.
1693 is when they were hung.
Gotcha.
In the first one.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So they had to make sure that they were like getting a little older, so now
Yeah.
they're interested in preserving their youth, yada yada. But
Yeah.
either way, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun, and oddly enough, I really liked the friend's boyfriend, the idiot.
Friend's boy. Oh, really?
Mike,
Yeah.
the football player.
I didn't really like him that much.
He pulled
okay.
the role off well. I don't think he was really given
Much.
No, I mean,
much
he wasn't
there.
given much
Yeah.
at all. But like, I thought it was more of just, I like that kind of character.
Yeah.
But we'll have to.
We'll get-
speak details.
we'll get
and-
deeper
and
into that.
beyond the
Generally,
spoiler wall.
though, like I felt like it had enjoyable moments, but I didn't love a lot of it. From like, so the performances again,
Yeah.
the kid Sanderson sisters was great. So I do want to retract my statement of every child actor.
Yeah, you said that. I was
Yeah.
like, oh.
Specifically, the main modern cast of
Yeah.
child actors, and any side characters were just kind of like
They were there.
grating to me.
They
like I don't know,
existed.
it was just fine.
Don't, don't be mean to Doug Jones.
I was about to say, did Doug Jones
he did
let
a
you
great
down?
job as Billy.
No, yeah, Doug Jones did good again as Billy.
Yeah.
The Sanderson sisters and Billy. Outside of that, on the main cast, I was not having it.
We're gonna keep making him retract and revise.
So the other thing that I actually really enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
about this film was I actually really liked their set design. I liked how they lit the scenes.
His
a
shop
lot.
was really cool. The
Yeah.
the magic shop,
was
Gilbert.
really cool.
Gilbert, yeah.
And the other thing that was really sweet was it's basically all set up like an actual theatrical stage.
Yeah, it did.
And the
It
way
very
it
felt
was
like a
lit was always like backlit with smoke,
Mhm.
and you have like the big moon behind them and everything. And every shot felt very purposeful of them, like telling the
Framing.
story in
Yeah.
the frame, which I really enjoyed. Now it's definitely one of those where I already saw the side eye from Ryan.
That feels like it's giving a little too much credit, but keep going.
Ryan's here to be spicy.
But yeah, I mean, you may not get the same amount of mileage that I did for that specific reason,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it.
Now I will say a knock from me is, especially coming off of just watching the original, where they
Yeah.
went very heavy on practical effects.
Nah, there's too much CGI.
The CGI book floating around
Yeah,
was rough compared to what it looked like in 1993, where it's like, this is like perfect.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the problem of whenever you
Mhm.
get into these sequels, and
Yeah.
they're just like, well, we can just cut some corners and save some money by not doing practical effects, where practical effects are what made the original.
Right.
What
Yeah, they worked hard for those, and it shows they held up. They
Yeah.
still hold up today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these held up in the time it took them to get from being edited to going on to Disney Plus.
Yeah, and especially at the end, there's a couple things that I can't talk about until the spoiler wall
right.
that looked really bad CGI wise.
Yeah. I don't know if that was a time thing or
I think it was a reshoot thing, personally.
Probably.
Or a reshoot, or even just a budget.
Or budget, yeah.
We did in the Hocus Pocus 1 episode, we did kind of talk about, how it kind of maybe rode the line a little between, is this a full budget, film for the theater versus a Disney Channel original?
Yeah.
This one, I think, did not straddle that line. It firmly stood on the Disney Channel original side.
Yeah.
I think Ryan made several allusions to Hannah Montana and the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
I was talking about the acting when I was referencing those specifically.
but in general, those are Disney Channel originals. So those are handy. Yeah. You didn't come at us and be like, Halloween Town, so.
Not this time. How much do you think it would cost to get all of our bonus content? Steven, how much do you guess?
I make them. They're worth at least $100.
$100. Andrew, what would you pay for all of our bonus content?
That is a good question because I also make the content, and I would pay at least $10 a month.
You're both stupid. It's $1 a month.
Wow, what? Really?
You get everything.
How do we get that wrong? We set the pricing. How do we miss that, Andrew?
You guys are not answering your emails. There's $1. Yeah, so right now and forever, basically, if you support us for $1 a month on patreon.com, you can get access to all of our bonus episodes. And we have some really good stuff in there. We have a lot of stuff planned. We're going to do at least one episode a month.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
And like right now,
minimum.
It's October, it's spooky season. We have a really cool episode coming up very soon about like our favorite, Halloween movies, things we like to watch in the Halloween season, spooky stuff.
Recommendations, both very scary stuff, less scary stuff. Also, holy crap, the 80s were wild stuff.
Yeah. So if you are one of those people that you're trying to get into the Halloween spirit, you just watched Hocus Pocus 2, you want more, we have some recommendations. Again, $1. You get that episode plus everything else we've already done, bonus content-wise. And what do you guys think? Is that a good deal?
I think that is a fantastic deal.
It's a great deal.
One, because you just get to listen to our beautiful, sultry voices again. But
these dulcet tones.
but also, like, there's some really fun discussions that we've had. Like, we've done the quintessential Star Wars movies tier list.
Yep.
Then we have a very hot and heavy discussion about fast food.
It was sexually charged. Our fast food discussion.
That took a sudden turn.
But then we also have, kind of like we just talked about, some Halloween themed stuff. We're also going to have maybe some James Bond themed stuff coming up.
That's right. It's coming up.
Yeah, because November is James Bond month, because that's how it works.
For some reason, I guess that maybe TNT was just like, this is when it's cheapest.
Yeah, probably.
Anyways, these episodes are priced to move. $1 a month.
Gets you everything.
It gets you everything. What are you waiting on?
Yeah.
$1.
Go to our website, spoilersintendedpodcast.com. There's links there. Or just go to patreon.com and search Spoilers Intended.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you did not get the memo from that abrupt ad intermission, we have passed the spoiler wall. We arrived it. We hopped over it. We blew past it. It is all spoilers all the time from here on out.
I'd say that we flew over it with our brooms.
Our Roombas. Or Swiffer Wetjet.
We Roomba'd right over that thing.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like...
Okay, so they were Roombas, but I don't understand what they were.
In what way?
They were Roombas.
I mean, but did she put a spell on them to have a mind of their own?
Absolutely.
Hard to say, but I would assume so, because otherwise...
They glowed red, Andrew. Do your Roombas glow red?
No, what you saw was the first two AI taking over. That was when it started. This is where the singularity is happening, and it starts right
in the
here.
corner like, yes, perfect. Spread my own brand of witchcraft.
I did like the setup with that, though, where, clearly it's like, this was the only brooms that they had left, and they're, robots or whatever.
She went to the household items aisle.
Yeah, and that's what it was there. And then it actually did pay off for them later on in the film to actually have these Roombas exist.
I'm going to dispute the concept of payoff, but we'll get to that. That's for a later.
There are plot considerations, but I did enjoy. I was like, okay, there's no way that they can get out of this because no one's being stupid enough to,
Well, the second I saw it on the ground, I was like, what could get rid of that? A
Roomba. What if you had two?
What if you had two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say before we dig into spectacle, I don't know. I'm curious for y'all's opinions on this because watching older movies, 90s, 80s, whatever, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time and it may just be because I'm not having the products advertised to me currently, product placement feels much smoother. Whereas for some reason in this, the product placement felt incredibly jarring.
It was, my wife was like, oh, come on, when the Walgreens popped up on screen. I was like, it could have been anybody's, like,
Who turns the lights off at Walgreens?
Yeah, like they look dead into the camera. Walgreens.com.
Yeah. Yeah, that one hit me. Because I mean,
they got to pay for the movie somehow.
I was about to say, I don't know what the budget was, but I hope Walgreens covered a substantial portion of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
it could have been worse, but it was just kind of jarring.
It's not as bad as the Sonic film.
But see, the Sonic film,
it was self-aware.
They leaned into that one hard on that.
Yeah.
And it's like they passed so far beyond that it's acceptable, whereas this, they tried to play it off, and it was like, you're straddling the fence right now, and you need to commit one way or the other.
Yeah. Like, you need to either go full camp or tone it back a little bit.
Or make it feel sort of like, please interact in the way that I expect human beings to interact with each other. I beg of you.
Well, also, I feel like it's a really weird sponsor to a backer to throw in here, because it's like, Walgreens?
They're a modern day apothecary.
I guess so.
They are.
That's how.
But like,
that's how
I wonder how
that
that worked. Is like, did they write the script and say, we got to go to CVS, we got to go to Walgreens, see who will get on board, or did like Walgreens come to them and say, if you're making Hocus Pocus 2, we want in.
No,
write it into the script.
I mean, in the original film, there was a grocery store scene that got cut.
Yeah,
and I don't know, maybe they couldn't find.
They lost a sponsor,
or they couldn't find a sponsor for it or something. I don't know. So they may have just run with that idea of, well, we can do it this time. We'll just use Walgreens. Walgreens is hard up for advertising, right?
It's stuff like that that's weird, because it's like somebody drinking a Pepsi or a Coke in a frame is like not as bad to me. Like, I get it. It's like
with the label out,
but labels perfectly towards the camera. But this was like, let's go into a Walgreens. And like the camera like hangs on it for a minute extra than it needs to. They go inside.
That just reminds me of when I watch League of Legends ranked matches. They have like Mercedes logos and the flags on the game.
Oh no, it's not the Red Bull Baron power play or the Bud Light Ace.
Like I'm just glad they
expect
didn't
that in sports. Honestly,
get inside Walgreens and go, look at these fair prices, or something like that.
And so tasty too.
Yeah.
All right. So
spectacle.
Yeah.
Let's actually get into this. I just had to rant about that because for some reason it just kept getting me.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't alone.
Sure.
But spectacle.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I'll probably go ahead and start because I feel that I'm probably going to be the highest on a lot of these.
Oh, the highest. Okay.
So I gave it a 7 for spectacle. I really did enjoy a lot of the set design, and the costume design was still very good for the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah.
Billy's makeup looked great. Unfortunately, there was a lot of CGI towards the end of the film, especially when, so they have the actor for Billy, right?
Yeah.
That he looks fantastic in the makeup. They could have literally just rigged up something to where, he was just, he was
just cut a hole in the bowl and just put his head on there. Yeah,
and don't just CGI an entire face. It was so weird, and it was that was the cliff I was talking about earlier. I was like, this feels very different, and I don't like it.
It's definitely if that was a reshoot, they probably either Doug Jones wasn't available.
Yeah,
they didn't want to put the makeup back on it.
They didn't want to pay to do all that again.
And it was it was so jarring for me that I audibly I was like, but he was just in the other scene.
Well, especially when you've already had however long to compare what he looks like with the makeup on, because he's there, he's a character.
He looks fantastic with the makeup.
Yeah, and then you get the CGI and you're just like, oh, what happened to him? What did you do?
I feel like the bird though in the opening scene
the bird was pretty bad
kind of
too.
Not great either. So they had hints of it in the early part too, but which that may have been reshoots too. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
no way to tell.
The bird obviously was very much so CGI. I did like the kind of the jump up right in filming technology now, where everything's a drone.
Yeah,
the drone
it makes
shot
a big difference
with the bird. Like if the bird just wasn't there and we just got to fly over the landscape and come in, I probably would have appreciated it. And then I don't know, you just land the camera and then the camera pulls back from that point and it's the bird. It's like, oh, I was the bird's eye perspective, right, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but that CGI was a little rough. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, the rest of the film I actually really did enjoy whenever they're in the Forbidden Forest and a couple other just inside the magic shop. which is obviously the old Sanderson house.
Yeah.
Like, you have a lot of that stuff where clearly they really set up a lot of like the proper lighting, even whenever they're in the garage. And the Sanderson sisters just have like this, clearly just a beam light just right behind them.
Yeah.
And it like that like that is not realistic lighting at all. But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It just looks good. And because they have such a the Sanderson sisters have such a good profile of like they very much pass the silhouette test, like with with Winnie's hair, and it looks good.
Yeah.
And I did like a lot of how they lit the scenes and everything. So I gave it a 7. I feel that it was the CGI definitely held it back a lot. It was on the lower end of a 7 for me.
Yeah.
So kind of where I'm at.
Speaking of being on the lower end of a 7, I gave it a 6.
Yeah.
I had a 7. I waffled on this because it was right on the edge. But yeah, the CGI kind of just enough to hurt. It's 2022. I would really appreciate that they would either approach it from a perspective of we need to blend this in better, or we need to not do this, or something else.
Yeah.
Or pay more to our VFX artists.
Or,
because,
just do practical effects.
Or do practical effects, yeah. And speaking of like the book flying and floating was rough compared to...
Sometimes it was practical though, right?
There was a couple times it was practical.
Okay.
And it may be the transition from the CGI to practical was too jarring in the sense of it doesn't look real, and now it's absolutely a real object. The magic shop was great. Like that's exactly what kind of place you would expect, right? Like perfect, spot on. I actually wasn't a huge fan of the wood shots.
Yeah.
And I think in my
it
notes,
felt very much like the original Wizard of Oz film.
Right, like it was a soundstage.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say, to me, it looked a little too much like a soundstage and not like an actual place in the woods.
I guess that I kind of liked that just because of how hard they went with the very unrealistic lighting for like silhouette shots and everything, where it felt more in place in that kind of film than it if I was watching another, semi-serious film where watching Hocus Pocus, I know what I'm getting into.
Right, I'm probably being too harsh here because my comparison, thinking about forest shots, was just the vast difference in what prey looks like.
Oh, yeah, but they were in a real forest
but they
at
were,
the Alberta Mountains.
I know.
Get out of here. That doesn't even count.
I counted it.
You can't even compare apples and oranges.
I gave it a 6.
Yeah, whatever. I don't agree with that anymore.
I also gave it a 6.
Yeah, that's fine. You probably have
different reasons.
Better reasons. You probably have real criticisms.
I mean, I don't want to retread anything. The CG struggled, obviously, probably due to reshoots in a lot of places. I feel like my thing was like the sets looked good, the costumes were good. I did enjoy some of the lighting. I think it was just the CG and the camera work was pretty basic. Like the camera work specifically. The CG struggled at times. The camera work was just functional. And that's kind of like the first Hocus Pocus in a lot of ways when you think about it. So like for me, it was...
and what ramps up the spectacle for the original Hocus Pocus is that it's basically all practical effects.
Right.
that
And so
helps
for me, it lacked that.
Yeah.
So it kind of fell into that. Like, it's technically a Hocus Pocus movie. It looks like the budget for a
Hocus Pocus
made
movie.
for streaming or made for TV movie. Right?
Yeah.
And without a lot of the practical stuff, it just kind of
it kind of flounders a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't impress me on many levels outside of the set design and stuff.
Those are valid. Those are valid criticisms, just like my criticisms are also valid.
Get out of here. I'm comparing it to a real forest in Canada compared to a soundstage in Hollywood.
They could have. There's forest everywhere.
It could have been the volume.
Don't say that.
We don't know.
It's a dirty word. All right, performance.
Yeah.
Ryan,
I'll keep going. I gave it a 6.
Okay.
For me, as I've said,
the child actors,
the modern child actors.
Ryan hates children.
Great here first.
Confirmed.
It was just like, oh my god, because I just don't watch stuff on the Disney Channel. Like Wizards of Waverly Place or whatever it is. And so I'm just not used to that kind of acting in a movie. And I feel like Max was somewhat like that in the original Hocus Pocus.
I mean, he was emphatically a teenager playing a teenager.
But even him, he was being like kind of a one note, almost like Max from the Goofy movie.
Yeah.
Just this kid's the worst, That's why he got on my nerves on that level. These kids, I don't know, I felt like everything was overacted just a bit too much for me. The Sanderson sisters I thought were really good.
Yep.
But I do feel like the three of them, whether it's because of it's just been this long since they've been in these roles or the plot, they've lost a little bit of energy and steam that they had in the first movie.
I mean, it's been 30 years.
Right, but like, well, I'm just saying,
Midler is 76.
There's a lot of people. Morgan Freeman hasn't lost a lot of steam. Like, there's people
I don't know.
that
I don't know.
There's some more close modern, films with Morgan Freeman.
I'm just saying,
kind of phoning it in.
There are people that are
does
really
Morgan
old
Freeman,
that still do good.
Does Morgan Freeman have to run amok? No. Does he have to fly on a Roomba? No.
No. And I'm not saying they did bad. I just think if you're comparing Hocus Pocus 1 to this, no going in that there's
It's been 30 years.
That doesn't matter. I really don't think look at Top Gun Maverick. It's been 30 years.
Okay, so then here's a genuine question. Do you think that when we get the new Indiana Jones film?
No, the fourth Indiana Jones film, he was crusty and walking around like he didn't want to be there. There's no hope for the fifth one.
See, there you go. There's your answer right there.
I don't think it's apples. Apples and oranges. Your opinion's valid. Strike it from the record. Motion to the court stenographer. Take that out. No, but I think for me, it's like in the original one, right? So if you're comparing them directly, they're down a notch, just a little bit. They're still the best part of the film, but they're not quite as as they were in the first.
I don't disagree.
So I do disagree because I think it's more a factor of the writing.
It could be. That's what I said earlier. It could be them or it could be the writing.
Yeah, I think they were just not given much to work with
That's
here.
completely
and
valid.
we'll get into that.
And I definitely think that it is much more of because of modern filmmaking.
It probably absolutely is. So that's my baseline. And again, comparing to the first movie, I feel like the side characters aren't as fun. Like we don't get a, Gary and Penny
So
Marshall.
the actual
like cameos,
the actual actor for Ice from the original film wanted to come back and they just never contacted him.
I would have loved to have seen the two bullies as like
just anything,
well-adjusted teachers at the high school or something.
Anything,
I would have loved for Thora Birch to come back in some capacity. Bring Max back. Bring,
just even cameos.
Danny. Just a cameo. You don't even have
Thora
to
Birch
have
is
them.
Danny.
Do what?
Thora Birch is Danny.
Or no, sorry.
Allison.
Yeah.
Like just have them in the background or something. Like
walking through the festival.
It doesn't even have to be a big thing. It could be them see the Sanderson sisters go, nope, not this time. They just walk away.
Time to go home, dear.
Yeah,
that would be actually great.
Yeah, because I felt like the guy that ran the bookshop,
Gilbert.
Yeah.
You're having the hard time with that name.
So I've seen him in other shows that are very raunchy.
Yeah.
And so my only exposure to him is like extreme comedy, right?
Yeah.
And so to see him play a more wholesome role was interesting.
I actually liked him.
I didn't care for him. As a character, I didn't like any, like he was a bad, none of his motivations made like a lot of sense to me. That may be more of a plot issue, but like
it is.
His delivery felt like it was tuned too close to that Disney Channel overacting dial. Now the young Sanderson sisters, I thought they were great. I'm with you guys in like I did not want them to do like a prequel, and then after seeing it, I'm like, man, I kind of wish they had like
bring them back in.
Well, like when the Sanderson sisters first came back, maybe they'd been reincarnated as children in the modern world, and then they had to like age themselves up or something. I don't know. I wanted more.
It's the reverse. Instead of eating children to stay young, we have to get a day job so we can become old.
But yeah, I think for me, the reason I gave it a 6 is because they did good, but there's no Thackeray Binks in this one. There's no
the lack of
Thora
Thackeray
Birch.
Binks definitely hurts.
Yes.
Yeah. The child actors weren't as good in the modern times, and then no Thackeray Binks. So all you're left with is the Sanderson sisters and Billy.
Yeah.
Doug
and
Jones.
I think with him too, like, not that he didn't do good, he did, but the
He
charm
didn't really
of
get
him
a lot.
not being able to talk in the first one led to, I think, more natural jokes than what he had here, where he could talk.
Well, but I do kind of like some of like just the matter of fact jokes of like, wait, so you've been alive this entire time, just like laying in the ground? He's a good zombie.
Yeah. What'd you give performance?
So I went back and looked at my notes from the first one, right? And in the first one, I was, big on our Sanderson sister actors.
Yep.
And really enjoyed Thackeray Binks, both as a cat, an animatronic, and a voice. And the kid actors brought it down, right? So then I looked at this movie and I said, well, the kid actors kind of bring it down. The Sanderson sisters are great.
There's no Thackeray Binks.
There's no Thackeray Binks, which I think hurts this both in performance and it also hurts it in plot.
And
how well
sure.
they've desperately needed that style of character.
Yeah.
That's a different issue for later.
Yeah.
I actually still ended up giving it a 7.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons I did so is I really enjoyed Tony Hale as the mayor.
Oh, yeah, he was fun.
And also as the Reverend. So he played both past and present.
I liked him more as the Reverend.
I
thought the Reverend was unhinged and a lot of fun.
I thought both characters.
Satan's legs of the spider.
Yes. But both characters were really well presented. And I love kind of the twist of, well, now he's just the goofy every dad good guy. You know, where the kids are like, oh, he's so clueless, but he's such a nice guy. And you know, his eternal struggle to get his candied apple.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed all of that bit. So, and I actually kind of liked Sam Richardson's Gilbert. I think the character is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think he put in a good effort and was entertaining on screen. But when we get into plot, there's other problems.
Sure, yeah.
Andrew?
So I also gave it a 7 for roughly the same things. Like I really did enjoy the mayor. He was fun.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, the Sanderson sisters were great. You know, they definitely, you know, are pretty much the only reason why you come to watch this film is to watch Bette Midler just be an evil witch that's, you know, kind of bumbling.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's
the Three Stooges of
witch. Yeah. And I actually really did enjoy Gilbert's character, like the way he portrayed him. He's not a very good bad guy, I guess, or good bad guy.
The movie doesn't know what they want him to be, and it's a problem, but we'll get there.
Yeah. But the way he portrayed it was good.
His acting was great.
Yeah, but I definitely think that the lack of essentially like an animal familiar was very much. It was a big vacuum in the film, and there's nothing else to really fill it.
We desperately needed a guide for the audience and also the characters to justify and to move things around.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like I would want Thackeray Binks to come back because that would actually be really cruel because like he, you know, in the film. Like, you know, he was basically saved.
He's given his eternal rest, right?
Yeah. Like, that would be really mean to bring him back just so you can have that character again. And I don't really know, and maybe this is probably one of the problems that they ran into.
Yeah, the problem to
there
solve.
Is no way to make that happen.
I feel like Gilbert could have been that character in a different version of the script, though.
Could have, very easily.
To me.
Yeah.
And that's more plot, but
that's actually, from the trailer, that's actually what I expected was, oh, this is going to be the guy who knows everything and is passing as nope, no, he's a bad guy.
So they could have turned him into like a bird or something, like a crow or whatever.
Like
and
he brings them back and messes up or something, and now he's a crow, and now he has to, you know, help them. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, so there could have been something there, but obviously now they wanted to go in a different direction.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'll say about Tony Hale, though, is like I'm a huge Tony Hale fan. He's from Birmingham, by the way. I've seen him at Whole Foods. Yeah.
What? I did not know that.
Yeah. I don't know if he lives here like full time.
I wonder if people are going to just try and give him candy apples now.
I don't know. Probably.
Dude, find out where he lives and leave him a barrel on his front porch.
Right. But I like him. I guess my problem with him in this movie is just that I've seen him do better in other stuff, like in Arrested Development and Veep. Like he murders the scenes. Like you are laughing so hard you're crying.
Yeah.
And again, maybe that's more of a writing issue. He didn't have a lot to work with.
I think that's more of a writing thing than it is anything.
So he was funny, but I never really laughed out loud at anything he did. I just kind of chuckled at some of the stuff. Yeah. Versus like I've seen him in other roles where I had to pause it because I was crying. I was laughing so hard. So for me, I was like, not disappointed in Tony Hale, but I just kind of like, man, y'all got Tony Hale, and this is, you know,
this
like
is what you give him.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the writing is probably where a lot of the major problems with the film kind of come in.
Probably, yeah.
Because I mean, up until that point, like it's still a pretty competent film. Yeah. Just for what it was.
Yeah.
You know. So moving on to the score of the score.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
I don't. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
So I was not a fan of the main song,
or
like the main theme of it's basically the exact same as the original,
right?
So like all of the actual background music and everything is essentially the same. Nothing really changes. So the score that I gave Hocus Pocus was 7.
Mhm.
And this is basically like down to personal taste of what what you feel is going to be good.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the new song, I'll find or
I'm gonna get you.
I'm going to get you
One way.
One way,
yeah, one way or another.
Yeah.
It is kind of catchy, but it's not catchy in the way I Put a Spell on You, which it has a lot more like kind of like mysticism to it.
Mhm.
Where this one
Right.
was just, we need a musical number.
Mhm.
This is a good one that we can fit
Yeah.
our lyrics into.
We can
it.
afford the licensing on
We
a
got the
1970s
license for this one, yeah.
song from Blondie.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt a little too ham-handed, and honestly, the song's pretty old.
Yeah.
I mean, Put a Spell on You is
Well, it's
also
even
From like
older.
1957. Yeah,
but
I
it's
know.
more of, especially for given it's witches singing, it's much more of a timeless play, right?
And the scene that it happened in the original was much more natural.
It's much more organic.
This movie felt more like it was like, well, we need a scene like that. So how can we?
Yeah, they had boxes to tick off.
Mhm.
So I gave it a 5,
Yeah.
which is one less than what I gave the first one.
Yeah.
And for basically the same reasons as what
Mhm.
you said. Like I think the score is what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of meh. It's
But,
Halloween.
I mean, the main
fare.
theme is still
The
quite
main
good.
theme is still good.
Yeah.
But all of the songs, the
Yeah.
singing numbers were not as good as I Put a Spell on You in the first one. Like especially the after credit song. I didn't really care for that
Oh,
one
really?
at all.
I kind of actually like The Witches Are Back. Like
That one was like
not-
generic. My dad wrote a rock song to me. I was like, what is this? I was like,
now I actually did kind of like some of the more modern pop song inserts that they had at the beginning of the film. But like it's not something that I would ever like listen to outside of
No.
just it being on the movie.
I did like when they broke out into song at the front and they were like, who are they singing to?
Yeah.
You. I was like, oh, that's good. That was good. But yeah, for me, it was a 5 because it's like same as the first one, but just not quite as good.
Yeah.
Mostly because the musical numbers felt a little more forced and
Mhm.
the songs weren't as good.
I gave it a 6 for a lot of the same reasons. The main, like, we're gonna bewitch the town for a reason song was kind of a failure on all points, right? Like I don't know that the song choice was that great. The situation, which again, that's separate
It
from,
just didn't really make any
it
sense.
just didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really hated the like Sanderson sisters introducing themselves through song.
Mm.
The twist bit at the end where it's like, who are they
Yeah.
singing for? You. That was good. Everything prior to that was me going, oh God, please tell me this movie's not gonna be like this the whole time.
Like a musical the whole way through.
Yeah, like oh no, they made it a musical. Like Bette Midler can do this? Question mark.
I mean, she definitely could.
I mean, she could.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what they give her.
Yeah, like.
But I did
you
have
to
a
good
similar
songs.
reaction of like, oh no, like, but for me, the payoff at the end at least balanced it
It
out.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're gonna lean into camp and whatnot, then that works, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
But I do think your middle act song of Bewitching song compared to the original was a big failure.
Yeah.
The song choice wasn't great. It just didn't work.
It
really
didn't
for
feel,
real-
It didn't feel witchy.
Oh,
No,
not at all.
It for real may have been a budget issue of like song rights. Like, what can we get the rights to that we can afford on this made for Disney Plus budget?
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
possible.
And it also doesn't feel like the type of song that really lets Bette Midler showcase herself.
No,
No,
because it's
not her
much
vocal
more
range.
because it's
Yeah.
a rock song.
Yeah, like it's much more of just a
Yeah,
like.
where like I Put a Spell on You has like this kind of like majesty to it.
Well, it has a big flow and drop down, and then
Mhm.
it peaks. Like it
Yeah.
has huge valleys
Yeah.
and rises
Mhm.
that she can do. And again, one way or another, it's just a rock song. It's just
Yeah.
middle of the road
hmm
with where the instruments are doing the real work here.
Yeah.
Right? It's not screamo. It's not something like that.
Yeah,
I would have preferred them do another version of I've Got a Spell on You.
Yeah,
like do the same song but just slightly different.
Yeah.
A
See,
different take on
I
it. or
feel like
something.
if they had done that, then when we were recording this segment, I'd be saying, well, they just
they just
revisited
ripped off
it.
the first one,
But,
probably.
but having heard what they did, I would prefer.
so I did think about that. I was like, so what would I say if they literally just did the same song again?
yeah.
And I kind of landed on I probably would knock them for it just because of the fact that it is the
Now-
same song and they probably still had the rights
Well,
for
and,
it.
and seeing how the way they handled the movie, like the filmmaking skill
Mhm.
on display here,
Yeah.
I don't think they have a talented enough hand to have done the original song in a way that like made sense and
Elevated
would have
it.
had like elevated it or would have paid off and like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why they did the original
Well,
song,
and that's kind of where you could just from from a general construction perspective, you could do a whole new song at the beginning and then do a reprise of the original song after, like basically in that song.
Because they even could have done like the introduction of "We're the Sanderson Sisters" song on stage there, and then broke that into "We're the Sanderson Sisters." I put a spell on you, and be like, "Ooh, right?" Like then, like that could hit. We're kind of getting into plot, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that we're in plot now.
Sure, yeah,
okay.
Because why not? We might as well.
Course stenographer, move it ahead. We're in the plot now.
Next line,
get
please.
that typewriter going.
Get the.
So we are gonna jump forward into plot.
Yep.
I don't think I've gone first here lately, so I'm gonna go first.
Yeah.
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
So this is awkward, right? Because we deemed the first one for basically not having a whole lot of plot. Like, it didn't really have a whole lot.
But there wasn't really a bad plot to it.
Right. It wasn't bad. There wasn't much to like punch holes
I mean,
in, right?
I say bad. I gave it a 5, but I gave it a 5 because of character choices.
For 2 or 1?
1.
For 1.
For 1. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But going into this one, it felt like they were like, "Hey, we need to do more with the story," and they did more. And it was like, "You should have done less. I don't need," because as soon as you start playing the game of let's build up some backstory, you're like, well, now I just see holes, right?
Yeah,
and there are holes everywhere, and I don't like it. I don't want that. I want to just be like, this is so simple that no one can fall off this path,
right?
Just drag me through it and let's go.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting question or concern for y'all.
Okay.
So Gilbert, right? Our quasi good bad guy ? Sure. Because again, they just didn't know.
He's a misinformed guy.
Yeah.
He's a
who's willing to do bad stuff,
directed individual
to save himself, which is self-serving.
So willing,
but
to
he's
do,
good.
Hold on, but let's get into the willing to do bad stuff thing. So in order to bring the Sanderson sisters back, right, we need another black flame candle.
Yeah,
he made one.
He made one. In the original, did you remember how they established what it's made of?
Flesh of a hangman.
The fat of a hangman.
Fat of a hangman. There we go.
So where?
I don't think the people that made this movie watched the first one that closely.
It's one of these things.
I think that's where the plot struggles. Is there's things like that where it's like there's not just fat of a hangman on
just
aisle 3 at Kroger.
Yeah, you mean Walgreens?
It's
Walgreens. Greens.
But it fits with the whole flow of where they kind of tried to nice things up, like in the original, right? Where dead man's toes, a piece of our tongue, and they like bite. And like it had some dark leanings of like, man, I can't believe they're
because it was the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was early 90s, but still like, man, I can't believe Disney was telling me this when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and here it felt like they wanted to be more fluffy with it, and so they kind of glossed over the fact that this is technically like just bad like black magic, right?
Yeah,
like they're doing bad things, and so like we're like, well, this conflicted Gilbert character, he's good, he's bad. We don't know like what's going on. It's like, dude, this guy hung someone to make this candle.
I mean, but that's the thing. He said that the book told him how to make it. That doesn't necessarily mean that is the exact same way that the original was made.
Not very true. Not necessarily, but that is how the first one was made.
I totally agree.
Has me concerned. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that was my.
Okay,
I'll let y'all have it. I'm going to jump in with some other stuff. Pick it up.
I gave it a 5.
Okay. So the same as
the exact same as the first one. However, my bigger problem, well, actually, it's still basically the same problem, is every single character in this film is dumb.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where like, okay, I can forgive some teenager stuff because they're just teenagers.
Sure.
I cannot forgive the Sanderson sisters coming back for a second time and
falling for the same things.
For the exact same
that bothered
problems.
me the least.
Oh my
that
gosh.
was like, it's just them being the Three Stooges. Like,
well, that's totally fine, and that is the general purpose. So my other big problem that I had was the third friend, that the estranged friend with Cassie, and just in my mind, just even if you are a teenager, there is no way you are dumb enough to throw a house party when your dad is like literally right down the street
in town. I kept thinking that
your
they
dad
were like
goes
out of town, and then it's like he's there looking for the apple, and I'm like, wait a minute, the dude's here?
Yeah. Like in my mind, there's no way that as a teenager you would be that dumb to throw a house party. Then
he's 15 minutes away,
barely.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 5. It was very frustrating because like watching it, like there was just a couple parts that we don't need.
Yeah, there definitely could have been moments, right, where our teenage protagonist could have played the trick again, and she does something, right? And then Winnie snatches like her hand and goes, "Nuh-uh, not this time." And it would have been those, oh, they're in real trouble. Like, this is just fun.
Yeah.
Like, this is a problem. And it never came close to happening.
It just never happened. But then the problem at the end was they kind of tried to give like some level of a redemption for the sisters, which we all of us did not want.
This is what's written in my notes. Let me just read it real quick. 3 confirmed mass murderers that serve Satan get sent back to hell while whimsical music plays.
So I definitely feel that the reshoots were probably the issue here.
I assume.
That's just what I have to assume.
So get in here, Ryan.
Let me jump in here.
Yeah,
I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
I thought it was worse than the first movie in every conceivable way. The first movie had stakes that were clearly explained and laid out, and even though the plot didn't do anything groundbreaking, it was solid and airtight for the most part.
It went from point A to point B to point C.
And this one, this whole movie feels, that's why I said it felt like fan fiction. It feels like they were just like, okay, we want to get to these fun moments with the Sanderson sisters. So let's make this character turn into an absolute idiot and bend over backwards so that this event happens, and then this happens, and then also let's just throw out all the rules from the first Hocus Pocus of how candles get made and like when they can be resurrected. It felt like they should have leaned into the lineage of the first movie, and they just selectively were like, don't worry about that. The biggest problem though I think this movie has that kind of explains a lot of the tone and probably the reshoots and stuff is that I think the Sanderson sisters need to be bad guys.
Yeah, they just need to be bad people
in the first movie.
Yeah.
And I was worried they were going to try to do the redemption arc from the opening scenes and like what they showed in the trailer, kind of like Maleficent or 101 Dalmatians, Cruella.
Yeah.
And they didn't really go that far, but like I think that's the problem is that somebody at Disney is like, these 3 characters have become extremely popular and we need to...
Popular characters for Disney cannot be evil.
They cannot be evil. We got to Book of Boba Fett these people and like make them the good people.
Well, not even good people, but just make them redeemable to some level to where we can have them in costume and Disney.
And so because of that, I feel like there's a lot of moments in the movie where like the plot takes a weird turn or character motivations take weird turns. And it's because, well, we can't have these 3 characters do what they should be doing.
Murder someone.
Yeah, what they should be doing in the movie. We have to, it's almost like instead of making a sequel to Hocus Pocus, which I think they stayed pretty evil the whole way through. It was like they were just like, what if there were some cool scenes with the Sanderson sisters? It was like
we just had fun.
It was like the rose-tinted glasses remembering of what the Sanderson sisters were instead of what the actual characters were in the first movie, which they were fun and lovable, but they were bad guys. Like they were trying to kill a bunch of children and, like even in this movie, they're still trying to destroy the whole town. And then like a scene later, they're like, oh, it's okay. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Well, so
like, what?
So I'll kind of push it there. So the final moment of like, obviously whenever they finish the spell, and then Winnie realizes that she essentially just killed her 2 sisters that she clearly loves deeply in some level, despite her verbal abuse and physical
whatever's
abuse
going on.
Right. Yeah, that's just her being.
That's just her being her, I guess. Not right, but still still a thing. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for villains that have very hard levels of like, this is okay for me to do,
and this has crossed my line.
This has crossed my line.
Yeah.
And whenever she loses her sisters, it is
for
clear.
Power.
Yeah, for power, that is not what she wanted. And in her hubris of like, oh, I can do whatever because I'm a witch. I'm going to do, and I'm an
the
evil
most
witch.
Powerful witch.
I don't need to read the warnings. I don't need to do all this kind of stuff. And obviously, in her hubris, it bites her. But the realization that now she cannot be an evil person, the type of evil person that she wants to be with her sisters, it does make sense from that perspective of like, there's no reason for me to try anymore because I don't have the people that I have fun with doing it.
Oh, sure. I have no problem with that. Like, I get why she quit trying to do anything.
That's pretty much where my kind of like stake in the sand is basically like, like she is still an evil person. So it was kind of a redemption, but it's also like in the sense of like I'm only an evil person because I have other people to share being evil with.
Which is not a good motivation.
Totally makes it a better. Yeah.
No, it's not. But like that's her motivation.
I do think from a story perspective and also from a performance perspective, that whole set
that was great.
Well, hold on. It would have been better if instead of the magic waited until our main character said that this is how it works to happen. If they had just she'd been like, I know what the warning means, and they come back to Winnie and she's just collapsed at the stump, sobbing.
Yeah, that would have been better.
I think that would have, because one, then it lets the other friends who didn't read the warning be able to say, like, this is a trick, and your main character saying, no, like, I know what happened to her.
Yeah.
And I think that could have hit a lot harder.
It definitely would have.
Than what we got did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what we got from me, like, I laughed out loud. I was like, what are they doing? Like, they're slowly disintegrating while this whimsical music plays. You're getting sent back to hell. Confirmed. They said they've been to hell before. Like they're dying. Like, this should not be like, you know,
but yeah, like
it was tonally for me way off.
And like that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I was like, it felt like it was two directors and two completely different tones for the film.
100%.
And I definitely think that's because of the reshoots. So, and maybe not.
I'm always going to be curious to know what
was the first
the original scene was.
Yeah. Like, did they die villains? And it was like too hardcore, or like what happened, I wonder.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where like there could have been a lot more with that scene to especially to have Bette Midler be able to like flex a lot of her acting skills.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic actress. And it's sad that they only gave her just a little bit. Like, you know, they gave her like 60% of what could have been there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It felt, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, because I don't want to like throw shade at, you know, the actors, except for, you know, Ryan's just like every kid was terrible.
Yeah, give me their names. I'll call their moms.
But I do feel like a lot of the hold up here was a writing problem, less of a acting problem.
Yeah.
Bette Midler is absolutely capable of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would go as far as to even say like writing and editing of like if you had a really good script and somebody that like knew how to chop together comedy in a really good way, they could have punched up a lot of the scenes.
Oh yeah.
And again, they could have tightened up the world logic of what's happening in the movie. Not that it's Hocus Pocus 2. It doesn't have to have tight
it's a very
logic.
soft magic
It's
system.
just in the first movie, it's like point A to point B, and Thackeray Binks is there to guide us the whole way.
Tell us which way to go.
In this movie, it's like they don't even mention like, will this Magica Maxima spell even keep them alive?
So
it's assumed it will by who? By them, but then it's like, was there a passage that said also you won't disappear at sunrise when
too powerful?
But I definitely think that the a lot of like what production companies feel audiences need for like the thing, like, oh, this is what, you know, we need to have this kind of thing in here. We need to have this kind of thing. It definitely hampers a lot of what made the original really fun, which was just a campy 90s film that is just completely bonkers all the way through, where this one they're like, all right, we need to have some level of structure. I'm like, not really. Just give like, just have a very basic plot and just let us have some fun with the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah. So you keep saying the word fun, so it sounds like it's time to talk about entertainment.
Sure.
So let's talk about some entertainment. I am a little concerned and also interested to know what y'all said, but I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
Gave it a 6.
Okay.
So it was still fun.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this earlier that I felt like the original did a good job of straddling the line between this is a made for film and this is a Disney Channel original.
Disney Channel.
And this one was firmly Disney Channel original territory, which there's several Disney Channel original movies that I'll still watch today, right? They're
Johnny
fun.
Tsunami.
Sky High. Like, I'll still put them on just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
I don't think this one is quite in, like, if it comes down to next year, Halloween rolls around and I want to watch Hocus Pocus, I'm going to watch 1993 Hocus Pocus, and I'm probably just going to be done with it because it just, the writing and what they went for here, where they ended up kind of running this line of, well, the Sanderson sisters or whatever one, like all the marketing, all the media, it's what everyone identifies with. So most of the story needs to be about them, and we need to almost make you question, are these people bad? And it put our actual, main character protagonist in this weird space where I don't even know if she's a real character in her own movie, right?
Yeah.
And that they need to just make them bad, make them evil, let them run amok, literally.
Yeah.
But I do think ultimately, based on the way it ended, the real tell for us, because we were saying earlier, well, you can't know how much it makes. You don't know, is it a success or not on streaming, is going to be, will we get a TV show off of this? Because that is 100% where they were headed.
I didn't think about that. I mean, they left it open at the end, but I didn't know.
Well, they left the three friends going off, right? You have the bird go by, which presumably that's the
same girl. So clearly she figured out a way to just be.
Oh, no.
Did y'all watch the after credit scene?
Yeah.
But there was an after credit scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I should have said something.
There's another candle.
There's another candle in a box.
Oh, really?
The cat jumps up on a shelf, and there's it says like
don't open
BFC 2, and like she rubs on the box.
Okay. Cobweb. She was really
Cobweb.
cute.
I like the cat.
Cobweb was good. I wanted more Cobweb.
I want more Cobweb.
Give me more Cobweb.
Let Cobweb talk to me. We're done.
I can't even take it not talking. Just more Cobweb.
Yeah. But it definitely felt like, and we already know, so head canon theory here, right? I'm going to put my fanfic in their fanfic. The mother Magica, whoever they run into, the head witch lady, right?
Yeah.
So
the lady from Ted Lasso.
Yes, I recognize her just from the ads. I was like, oh, that's the lady from Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
She has very distinctive cheekbones.
I thought she did really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't have to do a whole
for
lot.
like the 1-2
minute,
lines. Yeah.
But one, we know that she has to eat kids to stay young because she has the potion, right? She literally tries to do it to one of them at the start.
Yeah.
And two, I guarantee you she casts the spell because she talks about how, oh, my coven was lost long ago. We know
that's why. Yeah.
And the book doesn't want to cast the spell again because
it knows.
The book knows what happens.
Yeah.
So, like, again, and then at the end of this, we have her, winging in very obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Above the new group.
The new coven.
New coven. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I do think ultimately our questions will be answered of was this a success or not if there's a TV show on Disney Plus.
A Disney Plus show.
With these characters, right?
With those three and then the new Ted Lasso lady.
And the new Ted Lasso lady. And Gilbert will be there.
The actress's name.
Gilbert would definitely be there.
Someone else pick this up. I'll find her name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I gave it a 6 also.
Okay.
I think this movie's fine.
Yeah.
It's fun enough to watch, I think it lacks a lot of the charm and the fun of the original. Like we said, it was a 90s movie, so it wasn't trying to be anything other than just a campy fun time in the first movie.
It wasn't trying to add anything that it didn't need to add.
Yeah, this one feels too much like almost like they're trying too hard in some ways and not hard enough in others to make a sequel to Hocus Pocus when Hocus Pocus was just trying to do something fun.
Yeah.
Effortlessly, here it is.
Yep.
This one feels off, tone sometimes, and it's a bit complicated, but I think the thing that bothered me, so for me personally, I'll probably never watch it again. I mean, maybe if it's on or if my wife's like one Halloween is in the mood, we might watch it. But like the first Hocus Pocus, we will watch just about every year probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that one is a staple. I don't think this one is going to be a staple. But like the thing that bothered me, and this is very minor, but this is going back to plot a little bit, but it's just an indicative point of like my overall non-enjoyment of this.
General
is like,
contention.
In the first movie, it's like nothing good can come from the book. Nothing good can come from the book. And then in this movie, that girl, the protagonist uses the book like 2 or 3 times. And like, it's like good things can come from the book. And it's like, well, that on a core level feels like something they should have just stuck to from the first one.
Yeah, we made it super clear. This is dark magic.
Yeah.
The concept of dark magic is that by doing evil, you don't do good, right?
Yeah,
right.
You have to kill people to, do things.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is like the canary in the coal mine of like they didn't really stick with what I think made the first one special. And it was very simple. There's very simple parameters. And within that, the Sanderson sisters have like a ton of fun.
Yep.
This one, they still have a ton of fun, but it's just everything around it is a lot messier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew?
I gave it a 7. So I gave the first one an 8. This one's a 7, so just tick down. This is definitely one of those where, like, for the holiday season of Halloween or whatever, if we are doing like a craft day or whatever, we'll probably just put on the first one and then it'll just go right into the second one.
Yeah.
And
so you won't put it on, but you won't stop it from autoplaying.
Yeah. It'll just like, if
Disney's like, yes.
Yeah, like if I'm going to watch Hocus Pocus and watch the first one.
Sure.
But then, if for whatever reason, it's like, oh, we're just, doing nothing else and it's on, it's fine. And I mean, like there are definitely the first 3/4 of the film I did enjoy watching. I actually really do like the Cassie's boyfriend just because he's just an idiot.
He's so dumb.
But
I think his character would have been a lot better if everyone else wasn't also very stupid a lot of the time. Like if he was the only one who was
I kind of wished that he would have joined in with their kind of like adventure through it.
The dumb muscle as help or something.
Well, then he kind of turns into like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
I thought we were going to get a Billy and him team up towards the end. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm here for this.
Yeah,
and it just didn't happen.
Sad
that's kind of what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
And I also, and this is just more of like just a general thing, and maybe just because I was, bullied in high school, but whenever you have someone like that's like the really popular kid, and then he's like, oh, I wasn't like trying to be mean. I was trying to make conversation, but he doesn't realize that he's actually like insulting you the whole time.
Yeah.
And then him coming to that realization, I did enjoy that.
I thought that was
moment. And that's just kind of one of those things where I was like, that's more of a very much a Disney level thing where they're like, hey guys, bullying is bad, and if you say something, this could hurt someone.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And I get the message behind it, but like just seeing that in a film where like it actually did feel kind of genuine, because even like before that, it didn't feel like he was being mean to them.
Yeah,
he's just an idiot.
He was just an idiot.
Yeah,
I think the if this had been made in 1995, right? Like if this was like a direct sequel,
like 2 years later, we're doing
it. I think, and that character was in here. I think what they would have done is they would have somehow, the sisters would have killed him, and he would have been the body of, or the head of a dead lover or whatever, and he would be a severed head and be a zombie and have been running around. He would have been like the new Billy, or whatever. But they didn't want to do any kid murder in this one, for sure.
But I did.
Disney held back this time.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would have Billy and him like do like the team up, because he was in the football outfit, so it already felt like that very much like Halloween style thing.
Well, at that point we kind of established, like Billy had already established, oh, Gilbert's one of the bad guys, like we need someone else to put in here,
because we need the muscle.
We need Gilbert to stop straddling this weird line of bad guy, good guy, make up your mind, and just give me someone who is, at this point in the film, definitely a good guy, right?
Yeah.
Hannah Waddingham, by the way, is our Ted Lasker lady.
Oh, okay.
I was going to get there eventually, but I figured I better throw that in while I can.
Yeah. But yeah, it would have been nice to have kind of like a Shaggy level character along with them that like clearly just does not want to be here, but he still has the quotation marks heart of gold to not to like try and help out.
Yeah.
But we didn't get it. That's okay.
Yeah.
We got Sanderson sisters.
Yeah, we still got Sanderson sisters.
Mission accomplished to some degree of accomplished.
Yeah. Again, I think where this movie succeeds is giving you more fun scenes with the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah.
Like that's
there's really no plot that holds it together, but that's okay.
No. And arguably that's the most important part of the movie if you think about it. It's more fun with the Sanderson sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it does sound like we are winding it down, about to be all out of time for this episode. But before we are out of time, just once more, I want to shout out the Patreon. Huge props to all of our patrons already.
Thank you for supporting the show.
Thank you for supporting the show.
Always. You can join their ranks for as little as $1 a month. And if $1 a month is too much for you, we always appreciate a like, a share, leave a review.
Yep.
Particularly on iTunes.
iTunes specifically.
I don't want to tell you where to leave it, but just leave it where you can.
No,
I'll tell you iTunes. If you're wondering where and you have the option to leave one on iTunes, do it on iTunes, please. But their algorithm will put us in front of more ears.
On that note, that is all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And as always, every spoiler was intended.